got new music.
And you guys need to start a band instead of a DIY lawn show.
We were all taking a moment of silence for the cheaper seed prices that have no more we can no longer find.
Have a moment of silence for grass seed prices.
Yeah, I have no idea what happened with that.
You screwed up. That's what.
Yeah.
Zach was jamming out by himself, apparently.
It's all good, man. Everybody was singing it in their hearts. So
Red will fix it in post.
Yeah,
put it
that's
up
right.
in post. What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up? We didn't get a hey-yo. Or we didn't
It's Tuesday.
Welcome, everybody, to the BARENBRUG Seeds Round 2. Bing, bing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
all right.
I love it.
Well, LTZ say we sounded like Beavis and Butthead, so I don't know if that's
we got to clip
good or
that out.
not, but-
We're gonna clip that out and make that the intro next week.
All right.
We should just do that one time. Do acapella,
Yeah.
man.
there you go.
That'll be our new intro.
Fine, I'll do it.
We got
Oh God, Brent. Oh man.
our Lawn of the Week president forgot what day it was. Anybody else forget what day it was? I feels like Monday, man. I'll tell you.
Yeah. I'm all screwed up.
Feels like tired day. Yep.
Hopefully everybody had Labor Day off. So welcome back from Labor Day.
There it is.
Hopefully.
Is Cuts That Kill in the chat right now?
Whoa.
That beauty.
Oh,
Look at that stash.
Ooh, dang.
I don't see
That's
him.
impressive.
You said that's Michael Check?
Yeah, Michael Cack.
I just shaved my beard off today. I should have done that.
And he's just sending you pictures like that?
No, he posted it in the Discord, and you know those aren't safe around me.
Nothing safe for us.
You didn't slide in your DMs and send that, huh?
Damn. Oh,
Mustache
man.
ride.
Oh,
Oh, man.
what is this? What are we? Episode 84 now?
Yeah,
crazy.
man. 84.
84.
84.
So,
We had to have Mike back on from BARENBRUG. Give us an
Yeah.
update.
Mhm.
before
All
we
right,
get
so
too
hey,
much into it, though.
Yeah, let's do it, Brian. Do it.
Hey, let's all grab a glass.
Or a can of
And,
nice cold Busch Light.
Keep off the grass.
Pinky's up tonight.
Jameson and
So
lemonade.
So good.
You guys need those little can kind of cover slides.
Yeah.
Hmm?
That's a good idea.
So,
Hey,
welcome
I gotta
back.
say it. Hey, Brian, real quick. I'm sorry. I gotta say it. You look amazing. I don't know how much weight you've lost, but you look good, man.
who you saying that to?
You.
Oh, well, thanks. Might just be different lighting or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Let's
The lighting.
keep
He's
it
got he's
going.
going from the side. He's got the strong cheekbone.
Trying to get
I
the,
almost thought he was
trying
pulling
to
a
get the
Cuts That Kill.
jawline. You know,
He's got the little gray.
Strong jawline.
looking
Good,
there,
yeah.
All right, you guys can continue. Go
All right, all right.
For a minute, I
We,
thought you had the Fu Manchu yourself, Brian, but it's just all the grays down here.
Yeah,
It's dark
Get
up
salt
here.
and pepper going on there. More
Ah,
salt,
man,
less
that's what
pepper.
happens. That's what happens when you're like the oldest one of the group, man. You get all those grays coming up early.
How old are you, Brian?
I am 44.
You ain't the oldest.
You ain't the
No,
oldest.
you're not the oldest.
Wait, who's
Oh,
oldest?
snap.
I'm 46.
You're 46? Oh. Well, I must have had more kids or something with more stress. I don't know. I don't know where this all
It's
this
all
came
that
from.
pizza. It's all that pizza sauce.
There you go. There you go.
It's all the crazy bread making you crazy.
Makes me crazy.
It's so good. It's so good, though.
All right, so welcome Micah back from BARENBRUG. We had an awesome time with you, man. It's been a year about, right? You had
Yeah,
that
it just
old,
flies by.
old school background up, so I had to put mine up as well, kind of make it match a little bit. We haven't done those ones for about a year, so welcome back. Everybody's excited. Man,
Excited to be
everybody's
on.
doing fall renovations right now and getting seed and kind of realizing what's out there on the market right now. So we're glad to have you back and talking about grass seeds and all things BARENBRUG. So without further ado, go ahead and take over, Micah.
Yeah, so just as a quick update, kind of things going on in the past year. Personal life, had a kid, so it's been a bit nuts on my end.
Congratulations.
Pretty exciting. Yeah.
Welcome to
Boy or
the
girl?
dad club.
Yep.
Welcome to the dad club.
Boy or girl?
Girl. Little
Nice.
girl.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
it really helped bring back work-life balance kind of back into the equation.
Yeah.
Especially in a new job, new career, you can tend to go a bit heavy into the work side with no balance. But
Yeah, no balance. Yep.
yep. So learning how to play that. But otherwise, yeah, crazy time for the seed industry still. Even the things that we were talking about. And I hope you can't hear my Alexa because I swore I just muted it, but she's on. Someone's out the front
Hanging
door.
out.
But yeah, so all the things we were talking about last year, I believe at that time it was kind of not daunting, but before the climactic, all these crazy high seed prices, shortages, there's kind of the notion that we were heading into that. Since then, we went through that whole storm, and I would think, kind of coming out of that, but we're not clear yet. So yes, prices are still high, but it's kind of the update going into this fall season with new crop, quote unquote. Some of the updates that we give to distributors and users alike, golf courses,
Well,
sports
hey,
fields,
Micah,
lawn
before you
landscape.
get in next year,
Yeah.
let me ask you this. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me, when you guys were on last time, it was mostly about crop yields. I mean, granted, there were supply chain concerns with COVID and stuff, of course.
Mhm.
I would imagine that, if you guys are growing the seed domestically, most of the supply chain issues maybe have resolved. What do you think is the biggest factor right now that has kind of had the lasting effects? Is it the crop yields? Is it more so logistics and supply chain stuff?
So I kind of see, all these supply chain issues that every, industry of our economy has kind of seen as a separate category than seed yield.
Mhm.
So seed yield would be our primary, supply of what we're selling. So as far as other things go, it was plastic bags that might have been an issue. Even to the hats that we're wearing, these Got Grass or BARENBRUG hats, it would just take us months and months to get those
Sure.
in. But as far as seed itself goes, we didn't face too much, external noise. It was literally that we didn't have enough seed to supply that crazy high demand. I think we're slowly turning that corner, but yeah, it was mostly bad stars aligned, all of them from, it's just like one thing after another in the Willamette Valley, or at least it was going back to 2 years ago. It was like vol damage, ice storms that slowed seed getting out, processing plants were down, cleaning facilities. Even then to the forest fires that we had, that was more of like a shipping, more time delays. But that extremely hot record spring that was really dry, that really disrupted pollination, that was kind of that main factor. But what we're looking at now, much better scenario. So even though we're looking at yields being about average, it's light years ahead of last year. So even with normal yields as we see it, even though it depends on the crop or the species as well as varieties, because even varieties within, say, tall fescue, they could be early maturing, late maturing, kind of middle. So all those factors come into play with, when can I get tall fescue? When can I get ryegrass? When can I get bluegrass? They're all on this spectrum of not just this one point in time. So we're looking at good yields, good supply coming through, at least normal as it goes. But everyone is nervous. So with these high prices, it's when is the price going to lower or drop? And I think we're seeing it just soften a bit. But everyone's kind of wondering, is it going to drop drastically, or is it just kind of softening and stabilizing? I don't know if we'll know fully until fall goes by or until spring possibly. But just with the timing right now, The biggest concern I'm seeing is specific industries. So that's within grass seed in general. So in the Southwest, the overseed market, or even a lot of parts in the South looking for ryegrass in their overseed, they need it now, essentially, because they've been kind of bumping back these seeding windows earlier and earlier, spraying out seeding. Well, we still don't have that clean. It's going to take a while to get new crop in, even though it's a good yield. So people are slowly starting to get, like I mentioned, those earlier maturing types. Those are going to be first off and still available. But when everyone sees, this whole ryegrass market as an example in fall, it's not available right here. It's spread out through cleaning facilities. Those cleaning facilities, like any other job, they want to have a job throughout the entire year. They can't just shove all this stuff through in a matter of weeks or months. It's a matter of, winter, spring, last bit kind of going through summer.
Right.
So ideally we match the production and the need for that production to produce enough carryover to then fulfill kind of this, little gap where some needs to be fulfilled before we can clean the next bit. And as everyone probably knows, with the extreme demand we had a year ago, it kind of burned through all the carryover crop. So that is non-existent. And now everyone's kind of just waiting to go.
Reserve is gone. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like if you're planning on overseeding and you want to get some BARENBRUG seed, now is the time. If you haven't already gotten it, you need to seriously think about it now, because everybody's fighting for what's left, it sounds like.
Yeah, and for the most part, coming from the golf course management side, that's always been my message, whether it's high demand, low demand. There is the price component, so that is something to be wary about. But that aside, if I were to take price out of the equation, I would want my seed on a golf course side, that mentality. If my project is 2 years down the road, I want it 1 year from that at least. Knowing now, at least in my eyes now, on the seed side, seeing the kind of slow gradual decline, like especially if it's in your storage conditions and you are taking care of it like the way you should be, or even better than most, you can really sustain that seed life for a long time. So having your own crop, your own seed in the storage or in the barn is your best way to combat kind of this crazy supply type fluctuations in price. But yeah, I've redone, just as a little anecdote here, I've redone my front or backyard every single year now for the past 3 or 4 years. So one at a time. And even for myself, it's been a bit tricky getting seed, and I work for a seed company. So
that's comforting.
For the varieties I want to put in it. Yeah. It's like some of the newer stuff. It's like, that, another year to ramp up to where I can pull something that won't, affect us down the line. But no, it's been a wild ride. Even like the end users, I want this craziness to be over, so to speak. I like predictability. I like, even consistent work. It's kind of been honestly a spike where all the seed left and kind of sitting around. Now it's like, okay, well, we can go market, because I'm primarily marketing, not sales. So I can go do education, stuff like that. But even all those events I would go to, it was answering all these same questions of, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Like, I honestly don't know. Here are the indications. If I had a crystal ball, I probably would be in a much different position. But
so I was curious, when we were talking, early on, 2020, 2021, there was this craze about, everybody working from home now and wanting to do all their honeydew stuff. And lawn care was one of those things where all of a sudden this demand kind of came out of nowhere, this huge spike. I would imagine most of these folks, maybe not everybody's going to stick with it as intensely as maybe they initially did, but there's going to be quite a few people out there who are like, all right, lawns don't go away. I'm into it. It's kind of a process. I myself started a few years ago, and you just you get more into the rabbit hole of, the hobby side of it more than anything, really. Do you guys, or, maybe you're on the professional side, but do you know, do you guys anticipate a sustained increase in demand now that these folks have kind of gotten into it? Or do you feel there's going to be some level of drop off now that everybody's back to work and all the normal stuff is kind of resumed for the most part?
I agree. There probably is some, like any business, you get a customer. If they have a good experience, they're probably going to become a repeat customer. That's the best type of customer. So all those people who went out, maybe out of the norm, maybe they didn't overseed historically, or they never have. They finally noticed, they did some renovations, they liked it. They're probably going to stick with that, especially if they went down the rabbit holes of, the turf grass education that you can get, falling into. Especially, going through you guys' roots on YouTube. There's a lot of, education out there. I think when they get into that, they're going to learn more. They're, if they like that hobby and they like the results, they're going to keep going. But as far as the grass seed industry goes in general, I don't think, I see that kind of push or that surge as also stars aligning and kind of a unique event in a way. So everyone was at home where they probably wouldn't be for the most part. Also at the same time, nationally, we had a pretty hot spring. And that's usually a trend we see in the consumer products world, is how does that spring come out of the gates? If it's a cold one where, your soil temperatures are cold, oftentimes people are still trying to seed. I see a lot of those questions come through like, hey, this isn't growing. It's like, it's, still 40 degrees. Yeah.
Last time you were on.
Yeah. No.
No, I'm sorry.
But
just waiting for that
I would
to
say
explode on the chat.
Oh man. No, so when you get these like longer right out of the gate warm springs, you see a surge in end user or consumer product purchases, box stores, those kind of seed purchases regardless. So that with that spring was going to happen anyway, but not to that degree.
Sure.
So I would expect some of those to still come back as repeat customers, but going forward, if we have a cold spring, people aren't seeing that as, they're still inside. Maybe it's so cold that they're not even looking at the lawn. They don't need a mow yet. They aren't thinking of it. So it kind of has to do with like those factors, but it can affect the opposite side of that, which is more demand as a whole industry. And that's kind of what we saw a little bit of even around, I would say a couple months ago, actually. So we did have a little cooler, wetter spring in a lot of parts this year coming out. Mm-hmm. So that did slow up some of the consumer product demand or usage of seed. So if they're not replenishing seed as much, it's staying on the shelves, and we're not then, using a predicted amount we already have that we think we're going to need to use. Now we have that extra seed. So you do have this kind of backflow where we were super short in high demand still on the professional side. Well, we were able to bring, industry wide, people were able to bring some of that seed back to professionals. Originally it was just allocated in a different spot, and now like here it comes available. So it's a little tricky to predict, but it's kind of, the spring is definitely that kind of starting point as far as consumer products and what it can then affect in different areas.
Yeah, it kind of sets the pace for the rest
of the year. It does. Yep, that's a good way to put it.
That's awesome, man. It's cool how you can just like go and talk about this stuff. And that's what
get a little nerdy, yeah.
That's what I thought was cool about it, like you at GIE as well, is that like you I mean, I don't even want to talk about my work when I get home. Like I don't even want to talk, but I mean, like you were just like, I mean, it was just so, it was real good. You could just tell you're really passionate about it, and you really enjoy it and know your job well. So, and it was cool talking to you about GIE, like the same thing, like, you're just going. So, but anyway,
that's where I usually need like a coworker to tell me like, hey, you're going too much.
Yeah.
These guys don't want to talk anymore.
Keep going. Yeah. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't really have the breaks, but
holy hell, my man. Talk about some football once in a while.
I had just had my draft.
I had mine last night.
So speaking of GIE, Micah, you guys going to be there? You got a booth? What's the booth number? Where can people find you?
Oh man, you are assuming I am prepared.
No one's
You
ever
are
prepared.
wrong.
Never prepared.
That is unfortunate.
Oh man,
But you are going to be there, right?
Yep. Yeah, Barenbrug will be there. I think it's kind of the same booth setup as last year.
Nate's looking to get his year supply of chapstick over there. So.
I will
stuff out there, man.
I will stock up with that in mind.
Yeah.
Gotta
About
keep these
6
things
aside
soft.
for him.
Yeah.
Yep.
They don't call me
Symmetrical.
sweet lips for nothing.
Do they?
Do they now?
That's incredible.
That's your,
Congratulations.
name in college, right?
Yeah.
Where's your sweet lips?
What's
So
that?
Micah, you're going to be there. Who else is going to be at the booth?
So there are going to be, I think there's going to be a handful, probably
Okay.
6 to 8 people or so.
All right.
Maybe more like 6, but yeah, a little crowd of Barenbrug kind of marketing people, some sales. We usually try to balance out a little bit of both sides, so you can have different kind of conversations for, all sorts of people are going to have these different perspectives or questions, and kind of accomplish it that way.
So what exactly do you do? What is your position again?
So my wife asks me that like every month. That is where
It keeps changing.
You're like Creed on The Office, like what do you actually do there?
Yes.
Yeah, when I come home from work, I don't have to talk about work because she does like in one ear out the other. So my position is technically called Market Development Manager, which is a fancy way for all turf assistants. So I help the sales team. I help primarily our distributors and end users. Ideally, it's more interactive on the end user side, though. So more, turf knowledge or support for superintendents, sports field managers, lawn and landscape. I am in the professional division, so not consumer products, but we have seen that division kind of, I guess blur a little or fade. So, any hats? I think we can.
Oh shoot, that was quick.
Yep.
Pop right up.
Something like pop up and swirl. But yeah, position. So like we're starting, especially with all the COVID that was going around and everyone being at home, and especially us as Barenbrug employees, it's like, well, shoot, what do we do now if we can't go to a lot of these events? We started putting more of our professional seed, those products on, started out as Amazon. We also have Do My Own. Starting to get even like our own site going, even though it's a little slow and a lot of work we found out. So that's kind of where we have that blur where
You guys aren't just
answering more
use
questions.
Squarespace or something?
What's that?
You don't just use Squarespace or something, just like a little quick package,
Yeah, I just am the guy that sources all the costs and then some other people make it work.
So you guys offer raw seed and then you offer yellow jacket. Is there any other like unique traits of any of your seeds or anything like that going on?
New. So yeah, you're kind of referencing the raw coated forms of seed. We have in our yellow jacket actually kind of improved or tweaked part of the formulation of it. So we've swapped out the fertilizer component to that. So it's actually kind of a combination of products in a way, but it's your NPK micros kind of scenario that we already had before, and also adding microbiologicals to that. So specific variety or species of microbes in that to, do different things, from tackifiers that, kind of create more glue or concrete like substance. And, it's very exaggerated, but things like that, to just different species that help that kind of germination or symbiotic kind of relationship to the seed, providing them or harvesting more nutrients that they can from soil. A whole bunch of things in that mix.
So the microbes, that's a new component. What you guys are working on now, is it something where if you were to buy a yellow jacket coated seed that's produced within this past year, is that going to be part of that coating?
Yeah, so that would already be in there.
That's pretty wild.
From everything we floor stocked already. So that would be I'm trying to think of timing, but anything as far as maybe last spring would be in that kind of time frame. So
is this something where you guys now, you know, I don't want to put you on the spot. Have you guys done any kind of trials like side by side of, you know, the old formula to the new formula to see if it makes a noticeable difference? Because I mean, I'm curious about that kind of stuff. That you know, sounds like soil health, you know, cool,
Yep.
you know, using biologics, nature. How does it compare?
So we need to continue, and that trialing is always something that never stops, really.
Sure.
But we do need to continue testing with it. We have done some with kind of seed emergence, so seeing some speedier germination. If there's a question that pops up, just let me know. I see some movement. But yeah, for the most part, you know, we've tested a lot of the super absorbent part of the process. So that's something we would maybe test less of because we've done that so much.
Sure.
And we do have kind of that data for that Azuba component, that cornstarch based product. So the testing we do will kind of shift. So maybe faster emergence, because, you know, right now with seed coating, that emergency is kind of the biggest factor, and or just density that people are always asking about.
Man, that's pretty.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good picture right there.
What is that?
Is that Olee's?
That's RTF, baby. Mm-hmm.
Baby grass.
What's that stand for?
Rhizomatous tall fescue.
RTF. Kind of like RPR, but fescue version.
Yeah, I love our brands, RTF, RPR, HET, and the simple fact that everyone usually mixes them up, I just find hilarious. It's like,
all I know is it spreads, man.
Exactly.
Man.
On a FTR.
Yep, exactly.
WTF, man. I gotta get that BARENBRUG. WTF.
When I started at BARENBRUG trying to learn all these brands to come in, you know, knowing something, it's like, oh my gosh, what is this?
So if you were to buy a bag, like say a 25-pound bag of the coated seed versus the uncoated seed, is there a significant difference in how much actual seed you're getting, or is it fairly minor?
It's consistently the same difference, if that makes sense, if I explain it. So our coating is always like a 1-to-1 or 50-50 or 2-to-1, depending on, you know, which part of the industry you're talking about coating. But it is, you know, half of the weight is seed coating, half of the weight is the seed. So like as everyone phrases it, you're getting half the seed.
Sure.
So density is always the biggest thing that comes up is, you know, is this establishing faster or better?
Right. And my yield better? Is it doing better worth that less amount of seed? Yeah.
Exactly. So what I usually see in the field and kind of some of the studies we've done in the past, that was a while ago, but what we usually see is they do come out to the same. So in terms of percent coverage, you take the pictures, you run the little programs that tell you it's 95% or whatever the percent leading up.
Sure.
So it just depends what you're setting as establishment and managing your expectations there. If you're, you know, ryegrass overseed and your establishment is like, you know, 6 weeks or basically as fast as you can get to open it up and have people playing on this new surface that you just established, that's a little different. Or a sod farm where they're trying to turn out this product, harvest it, ship it out in, you know, 9 months or less. There's, you know, kind of depending on the climate wherever the sod farm is, that differs. But if you're a, you know, long-term turf that you're not removing and you're establishing that in your own front yard or, you know, golf course rough or a sports field, if you give it that, you know, 9 months to 2-3 years, it's reaching that percent cover. So it is half the seed. And yes, it is, you can imagine, a little less dense as far as per plant coming up, but it is kind of that insurance policy as we frame it. So if you do have, you know, high heat, humidity, if you forget to water too much, any of those sort of scenarios, it can actually save you quite a bit as far as actually still having a surface to grow and establish. So those are the
with
primary.
a seed like the RTF, how quickly do you start seeing that spread?
Spread? Oh, like the rhizomes?
Yeah.
So I think there's a study done that I was actually just digging in this old box of BARENBRUG files too, where I think Kansas State actually did something too, but it's about 12 to 20 months where you're really seeing that spread. So imagine just growing these bunch types to begin with. Once your establishment is actually done, maybe 9-12 months, think of that as the first gate you have to get through. First, establish your turf, because the rhizomes aren't necessarily just running out the gate at the same time as the above ground stems as well.
Sure.
So they're starting to come out, obviously, but they're not going to be these long things compared to this little tiny leaf above ground. So usually you won't probably start seeing them really in the ground until year 2 sometime, I would say. So as an anecdote, I guess, or a little side note, my backyard is one of our newer RTF varieties that unfortunately we found really hard to produce and is a lot lower yield than we expected. So we don't think it's going to make it. But I combined that with one of our newer tall fescues. So almost like a futuristic turf saver RTF. And I actually just sprayed it with Roundup last week. But even after just about, almost 2 years, I am seeing rhizomes in there, and it's actually spreading out. I'm actually edging it every 3 weeks, and or trying to just kind of do a little PGR edging effect to try and limit that action. That's kind of a, you do create some spread. Well, that is one of the side effects, is you maybe create maintenance for edging.
I love edging though. The more
it
edging, the
is
better.
Yep. my problem is it's not actually against anything. It's just it's right up against bark dust. I'm flinging little bark.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You're picking it all up every time you do it. Yeah, that's true.
So Micah, somebody in the chat wanted to know what your best KBG seed is.
Oh, best. I would say, where do you live? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to save water? Are you trying to, apply as few inputs as possible? Are you trying to mow as less as possible? So when you get into a lot of these elite Kentucky bluegrass types, the options, I'm not going to say endless, but there are a lot of options out there. Mm-hmm. You look at our Barzerati Kentucky bluegrass, and for the most part, Barrister, which is actually from the Jacqueline program, but we've licensed it in the past. Those are really drought tolerant varieties. Barvet and our HTT product is just super aggressive, super disease resistant, traffic tolerant, produces almost no thatch. It's really light colored, so people don't like it that way, but that gets you a lot of disease resistance. With the Midnight program, or the kind of that genetic portfolio from the Jacqueline side, where they did a lot of breeding work, a lot of those elite types are slower growing, really dark colored, or a kind of range of colors as well, but disease resistant. I mean, it's hard to just pick one for me, I guess, because
that's a great answer.
I'm a little too nerdy about it too. That's usually what I work a lot of actually in my job, is people asking me directly where they live, what should I plant? And these are kind of some of the questions I go through, is what do you want it to do? If you're just primarily trying to save water, let's go down that route. Maybe the species isn't even what you are looking for, possibly, but it could be whatever trait.
Sure.
So I hope
makes
I
more sense. Yeah.
No, that's
Olee,
a good answer.
Olee says HGT.
What?
I said, it looks like Olee says HGT is the one. That might have been not the.
Well, it's kind of
a good
answer
answer.
that we do. People are like, what's the best way to do your lawn? What's the best way to do this? And it always comes down to us. What does your soil say? Do a soil test. So, it's fair to say that the best KBG seed is based off of what you're trying to do, where you live, what your environment's like, all that kind of stuff. So, no, great answer on there. Somebody else wanted to know what's a good blend for those people in a transition zone in Tennessee. You have any specifics for that?
Transition zone Tennessee. That's actually where we see a lot of just I'm not talking about blends or mixtures here, but as far as a blend goes, we see HCT there a lot. We actually have our independent research facility in like the Lexington, Kentucky area. So we've been doing HCT work there for, since before it was developed even. And that's kind of the bread and butter of the area. Outside of that, in bluegrass, it's going to be tall fescue for the most part. So getting some more disease-resistant tall fescues, and that's going to probably be your other bet. Depends if you like thicker, finer texture. Turfgrass, probably you're trying to go the water savings route of tall fescue, or the visual appeal maybe of bluegrass. But some people like tall fescue for the appearance as well.
So what about some of your warm season seed? I seen Aldo in the chat asked about Hollywood, Bermuda, and how does it compare to Monaco and maybe some other varieties?
Yeah, so that's actually a good question. And also another thing that would be growing in that Tennessee area, transition zone. We do have a lot of people kind of going with Monaco and or Hollywood. And they are pretty close, actually. They look pretty similar. I think their genetic color is pretty close in the Inteps. Some of the diseases might just kind of flip-flop going from one to another. But it's also hard to compare them directly. So Hollywood was from the Intep before Monaco. So I believe Monaco is a 2013 or in that kind of time frame, potentially. Well, they do have the common Riviera is like a standard variety in each of those. So that's kind of something we try and compare to as a shared, reference point as a standard. But they do look pretty similar, I would say. Just little traits here and there. Cold tolerance might be a little bit better for Hollywood. I believe that was actually bred, and more of the background behind each of those. Hollywood was bred more on the Idaho, kind of eastern Washington, kind of where Jacqueline, comes from, and their offices and production lies. Monaco comes from kind of the Johnson Seed program, so out of Oklahoma State, kind of that area, that breeding program. So kind of where those just genetics originate, you can kind of see where some might tailor specifically. So Monaco might be able to go, further south, whereas Hollywood might be able to go further north.
Interesting.
And you guys have been using so you guys acquired Jacqueline seed, and you've been using I think I seen where you're using Jacqueline seed and some of your original varieties in a mix now. Unless I'm not reading, but I mean you've made mixtures between the companies you've acquired and stuff.
Yeah, I would say we haven't necessarily come out with, maybe Full House where we've actually mixed Monaco and Hollywood together. That would be kind of that new brand product between the two. As far as how we've merged kind of BARENBRUG and Jacqueline together, it's all BARENBRUG, but there is kind of the Jacqueline portfolio for kind of the distributors they've purchased through. But no, there's definitely been a lot of integration of the Jacqueline genetics into our own BARENBRUG brands. Depending on the brand, you might just see a different amount of legs, and legs being, out of 3 or 4, however many in a brand, as we might just call them. So there might be 2 legs BARENBRUG, 1 leg Jacqueline, or vice versa. On their brands might have one of our BARENBRUG, if it makes sense for what their product is trying to do. So that was kind of a big step, was combining both of these, varieties, products, sorting through everything, what sticks around, what goes away. And at the same time, going through this new pipeline from Intep, from bluegrass, tall fescue, ryegrass, all these new things coming. That was a lot of work, and still is a lot of work. Training our team and having new people come on board. It's been honestly a blast kind of going through that process, but it is a lot of time and effort.
On the tall fescue, the water saver, what actually is there something different about the plant, the root system? What actually is going on there?
So,
what's that mechanism?
So it is literally like our drought tolerant tall fescues. It doesn't have RTF in it though. So it's kind of our brand for our drought tolerant tall fescue varieties. So as far as BARENBRUG tall fescue brands go, it's Turf Saver RTF, it's Water Saver or Water Saver Pro, depending on kind of the market. But those are kind of the primary two main ones. Outside of that, that's a cool little picture.
Yep. That's one that popped, and it was basically laying on, just barely on the surface. And when I pulled up on it, it had that little bit of a root. So
yeah, it just kind of shows like, even seed to soil contact. If that one, seed, if you're kind of raking back over or whatever practices you're doing, they can still have a little chance of, kind of going off the top of the ground.
I like that seed just because, as we said earlier, who's the oldest and who's the blindest, but you can see this stuff. You can see coverage, and there's no question, how good your coverage is.
Yep.
Also you can use less seed because of the coating, because you have a greater chance of germination. So you can use actually less seed. So, a lot of people look at the bag and go, well, dang, that's got 50% coating and 50% seed. I'm only getting 25 pounds of seed, but you've actually got a better chance of a better coverage and germination with the coated.
Yep. And I don't disagree with people having that kind of first reaction too. I mean, heck, when I look at like whatever on Amazon or something, I'm like nitpicking, like I think I just got ripped off, when I finally open up the package and it's this big versus like what the image looked like it was. No, that's real. It's hard though too in our industry where the initial seed coating was literally just lime, kind of that buildup of material, twice the weight. And there were no extra, features. And I think that just speaks to kind of not just the industry, but what I need to do in my job is better market and better educate. Hey, here's some of the benefits of what we're putting into this mix, and try and make that a little bit more easy or more accessible.
Sure. And, the thing that I was thinking about when you first mentioned the seed coating and then, touching back on it now, is that realistically, you also need to look, I think, at what the brand of seed you're buying is and what that, particular coating is. So, I mean, I think if you put like a BARENBRUG seed coating up against another seed coating from a large seed seller that you could find at a big box store, which one are you going to have better germination with? Right. You can make the case of saying something is okay. Well, this is only 50% seed and 50% coating, by volume. But, if you take the same amount of seeds, and you sow them, what are you going to have better germination with? And I'm sure I'm sure you guys have studied that, in comparison with other, industry leaders, so to speak, in terms of, sales by volume, right? Big box store seeds that have coatings and stuff like that. So,
but even for us though, that's hard to, put in a trial and like have statistically significant or comparable numbers, because you could literally have different lots where they started out as a raw germination that you can't pull for a competitor's seed. So you can't really make conclusions that way, or in the coating process, something might have happened, or that seed could be sitting at that warehouse or wherever that big box store is for a year. Maybe it hasn't sold. Maybe it fell to the back and someone picked up, just put it in. So even comparing against those is really hard. The best we can do is kind of, go back to the beginning part maybe and compare against, commercially available products to put into our coating that, not just available, but new up and coming things where we're always pushing forward. And I think that's where you can often get a little slowed up in our industry is, comparing against all the competitors versus just, are we making improvements in our own product as we stand right now? So that's usually kind of the approach we're taking, is always moving forward and that's easier for us to do in studies where we know, this coating at this date included this versus this coating in this stage or state with a formula.
You're saying it's easier to compare this new addition to the previous one relative to some competitor because you guys don't have access to their like immediate, like you can't kind of guarantee. So it's not, the accuracy is less so versus, hey, we know that we got 10% better yield or darker color or more spread than whatever we produced in 2019. So this is what we're going with going forward.
Yeah. It sounds like you're almost saying like it's an apples to oranges kind of comparison because you're not really sure of like what the exact chemical formulation of theirs is compared to yours. And how is that going to affect, even the weight maybe of the actual coating, right? Like maybe that coating's heavier or your coating's heavier or something, who knows?
I guess in my example, like the best kind of, paint a picture, if someone was to take all these coated products, put them out and one of them looks horrible, I would almost think that there might be some unexplained thing that happened to that product. And I wouldn't want to dish that one versus if all these products look, like as they would have performed and one of them looks amazing, like crazy good, probably more of a chance that something good happened to that product than something bad happened to the other. It's just really hard to do like a legit study, just comparing things off the shelf from, whatever seed lots they chose, whatever seed varieties. Could be a varietal difference, could possibly not even be, coating related possibly. So that does kind of open up a box of worms. What is a little unfortunate is, with super low supply and high demand like we saw, a lot of people were either forced to cut, customers, the amount of sales they can make or product they could ship customers, or like in a lot of cases, we had to increase our coating and only offer coated options, so everyone could have at least something to plant. So there's kind of different ways to go about it. But in a lot of cases, people are frustrated because they don't have the raw option. It's just here is coated only. So it's kind of like, who do you want to make mad in what way, or can I get the best of the scenario? I don't know. It's a tough decision. And I mean, I feel for end users because I would want to be a little picky in my options too.
Yeah, I've always liked to do it raw, but I do like Olee's thing about seeing it. I like to be able to see it. That option that option sounds good.
Yeah. Hey, I was curious. So whenever I do my overseed, I usually have a little bit left over, a little bit seed left over. I know. So Junk Guy in the chat said he likes to store his seed in his socks. Coming from a seed company, what would be the best way to store some seed if you wanted to use it the next year? Like, what would you guys recommend to somebody who has leftover seed?
Cool, dry environment. So I usually get a lot of people asking, can I just throw this in my garage? Like, how hot is your garage in the summer?
Yeah, don't do it.
I actually put a little, I don't know if I have one near me. I do. It's these little things from Amazon, oh, come on. Here we go.
Okay.
Little magnetic.
Yeah, I have that.
Temperature as well as hygrometer or humidity measurements. So I just stick that in a garage in my shed, so I know the highest, lows, and at that time of where that humidity and temperature is. The rule of thumb is, and there's an Oregon State seed article that they did. I think it's the rule of like a 90 or 100. So if you combine humidity and temperature, and it's going, 100 plus, you're usually in an environment where your seed's going to degrade faster than, in a not as stressful environment. Of course, it's like a gradient.
That's a good rule of thumb. It seems like, yeah. I mean, so essentially, what you mean if you can keep it inside your house, right? I mean,
exactly. If your house is 70, as an example, and you want it just somewhere dry. Basement's perfect.
I remember you guys talking last year about every year the percentage is going to go down of what's going to germinate. After so many years, you're going to get down to a less germination rate than if it was within the first year, 2 years, or whatever. So that's really going to be dependent on that.
Yeah, like you could be looking at a a year-over-year decline of less than 5%, or it could take a plummet if something happened.
Right.
Or you could look at bent grass. We store it in buckets, and in our warehouse, just sitting there, we have lots literally from 2014, 2015 that, might be a product we don't sell anymore, but it's sitting around and might just end up going in the garbage or someone's lawn. And that stuff is still at 90+%, just sitting in a bucket, like just in the time capsule.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's cool.
But you think of, like you hear Egyptian tombs and stuff, they'll find like a seed and they throw it out and like it grew in a lab or something. Like it's possible.
Hey man, if you guys are ever getting rid of some seed, just send it my way. Don't throw it out. Just
What's Michael? What's your Venmo? Venmo.
I'll take a 30% germination.
Yeah.
rate.
What's your Venmo for a?
You need 15-year-old bent grass. Is that
old
what I'm
bucket
hearing?
of
25 pounds per 1,000. I could do it. No big
putting
deal.
green.
Screw the bent grass though.
Yeah, the bent grass. No, thank you.
I'm putting bent grass in my backyard, so that's gonna be a bit interesting. Yeah.
Nice.
You got a picture of your backyard or your lawn? You should have sent us some. I'd like to see it.
Oh yeah.
Like right now, real quick.
Yeah.
Just,
While
I
you're
don't know. I mean, you're killing it every year, which that's crazy. I kind of like to know the process of how you kill it and what do you do. Like, what's your process when you seed? Just curious.
Yeah, I don't know.
While you're sending that to Zach, we do have this little segment we call KOTG Lawn of the Week that we talk about. So this is a good time to do that. That way everybody can just kind of kick back, relax, listen for a minute. KOTG Lawn of the Week, we started a long time ago when we had Pro Pete on the show, and Pro Pete was gracious enough to collaborate with us for each of the winners to send out a bag of Pro Pete. And so we started the hashtag KOTG Lawn of the Week on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, jump on there, put it in a post or a reel. See, I got it right this week.
There you go.
Post in a reel, and we will search those up and look to see whose lawn looks the best. And then we debate on it. And after that, the winner gets their choice of Pro Pete fertilizer, or as John came back on the show not too long ago and offered up a bag of Fossil, PHOSUL, that you could also try. So this week was a tight debate, and the winner squeaked out.
Master debaters in the chat.
There was a lot of master debaters in the chat.
We had it down to 2, and it was a close one. Yeah, for sure.
It was a very close one. Sure. But somebody that's we feel like it's well deserved is Lawn Addictions, aka Mike Haddad.
Yeah, Mike.
Over there in New York.
He's done a lot to his lawn.
Yeah.
He's been a busy guy.
Yeah. I've been wanting to do. I like that pattern, switching it up like that.
That is pretty cool.
I want to do that in my lawn, but I've never had it work out.
You have to find the right spot to make it transition, but
yeah,
it looks really cool. So, congrats to Lawn Addictions.
He's been a long time KOTG supporter too, so that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Mike's a good guy.
Nice.
Talked with him a number of times.
Is he turning around in his neighbor's lawn?
Yeah.
Every time. Fuck you.
That's when you really dominate. Like,
yeah.
Get this trash out of here. I'm just gonna turn around right.
that big lead roller is striping them weeds on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Yeah, that's looking good. So congrats, Mike, on the KOTG Lawn of the Week this week. We'll reach out to you and find out what NPK of Pro Peach you want to try, or I think we've only had one person get the Fossil so far, so maybe you want to try that. We'll see. But congrats again. Lawn's looking amazing.
Congratulations.
Damn, Micah.
You can see his footsteps in the in the lawn.
Micah don't mess around.
Does it look good?
What's that?
Yeah, I'm trying to get this transferred over here.
I'm sending you a picture too of my neighbor's yard that I put mine up against. in terms of your domination that you just
man,
mentioned.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
been
based
sick
on
right here.
Zach's reaction, maybe Micah was the runner-up to Lawn of the Week.
Oh no. I work from home and I have a little outlet Liberty mower, and I have less than like a 1,200 square feet, so I don't think it's fair.
So you real mow it too?
Mhm.
Yeah, damn, that looks good. I gotta pull it up. Hold on.
But I mow it at like 1.25 inches right now, so it's not super low.
Still, that's pretty awesome.
No, that's kind of what it does take some time, but coming out of the golf course world, that's what keeps me like like back in my turf grass roots.
Sure.
Hey.
Ooh,
So that is a front yard that's like 7 weeks old now.
nice.
That's one of our newer ryegrasses that actually isn't even named yet, but an experimental.
Give that
Awesome.
neighbor some of that leftover bent grass.
Yeah, they got a lot of colonial in there, a little Bermuda. So design dormancy, as I call it.
Yeah.
But no, it's a good angle. You stand on top of it and you're like, I can still see soil.
Yeah.
So I need to do some plugging because that's all the seed we had. So if I messed that up, that was it.
That's crazy. So they let you can use your yard as like a test plot of whatever they had that's left over. That's awesome.
So yeah, there literally happened to be like 4 pounds extra of we seeded all these fields. Just whatever we had, and actually the seed was from a while ago, so it was something that was not really going to be used. So
Yeah.
kind of put it to some use at least.
I'm saying, man, next time I'll pay for shipping, Micah. Just bag it up and ship it on over to Missouri,
Super easy.
But the sad thing is, if you actually if you look at the cost for, producing some of those seeds at that stage in the life cycle, that 4 pounds might actually cost you $100.
Dang.
Or
Yeah.
like
Crazy.
just because of how much we pay for a certain size, small
Right, yeah.
acreage for a farmer to produce this. It's a price per acre, not what you get from it. So whatever yield you get, that correlates to whatever you would put in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's some blades of grass that didn't get cut, and I'm not, that dedicated to get them all, but that's the RTF combined with bonfire. So
you're real mowing the RTF?
Was it's hopefully
great.
dying in less than a week or so, but
Yeah, I have yet to have.
That's RTF real mode right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 1.25 inches, and I think I watered that about 4 times this summer.
How old was that though? Is that like within a year of seeding, or
So
how
I
mature is that lawn?
seeded in the beginning of June. I think that was 2021. So it is, a year and maybe coming up on a year and a quarter. What's that in baby years? 15 months.
Yeah, it's thick. Yeah.
Good.
The thing is, though, in our climate, like it almost either halts or goes into decline, and into just a winter, just the moisture, the temperatures, it's not enough to grow, but not enough to make it go dormant. So annual bluegrass is just like going rampant. So I do have to pull with a chisel, little spots here and there through the winter. So not something like the everyday homeowner would really want to be doing, or just doing in general. So, over time you would get some annual bluegrass kind of poking through there. And you can easily maintain 12 fescue, I would say, at 1 inch or so, but I don't recommend it. It's probably not, you're not getting the benefits from it that you would at 12 fescue at a higher height.
Hey, that's a good question. Like whenever you grow or whenever you have a sheet on the RTF, what is the recommended mowing height?
So it's a hard one to ask because you get people asking, well, how low can I take it? How as low as possible? How low can I take it? So I usually recommend, 2.5 to 3 inches for tall fescue, or even higher if you can. Some people go 4 inches. It just depends. Are you trying to get as much drought tolerance as possible? Do you want to mow as less as possible? Take it to the higher end. Golf courses, some will even take it as low as they can on tee boxes. Some are going 3/4 of an inch in some scenarios where maybe they can't get any other grass to grow. And this is maybe the kind of the route they'll go. But for the most part, that's 1.25 inches to 1 inch. In the spring and fall, I would mow it at 1 inch, but
that's sweet.
Yeah. So it can take it. Just, at that point, I was either mowing twice a week or going out with T-Nex or Trinexapac ethyl.
Yeah.
In the summer, at least, I would just do one application as it was getting out of hand. And, I have a job, and sometimes I'm gone a week at a time, 3 weeks back to back to back. And I had to use T-Nex as a as a strategy just to keep up on it. But
I haven't used any kind of regulators yet, but just the way the lawn has been growing now that temperatures have cooled, I definitely it's difficult to mow more than once a week. I have a full-time job, I got kids, getting out there during the week to mow is tough. So I'm interested in maybe trying a growth regulator next year, spring and fall, maybe to see if that helps. Because yeah, it's growing like crazy now, not so much in the summertime, but these are the times where it's like, it's probably looking its best that it ever will. But it's just every time I mow, I'm leaving little trims and trails and stuff just because I can't do it often enough.
Yeah, I think I put mine down sometime maybe May or so. Like basically when I was trying to get its fertility in too, it was just taking off. And like, I can't, I'm only mowing once a week at this point with travel opening up more and visiting more distributors. It was down to once a week. So I think it was May when I applied it. And usually around summer, especially when it gets the high heat, 100 plus for a few days in a row, that's when I started seeing almost overregulation or, I didn't have to mow for 2 weeks in that little stretch, but
looks like your neighbor's looking at 8 inches, 10 inches.
Yeah, they're a little wild over there.
Yeah, they plant your clover mix.
You should spray that regulator over there.
That's a pollinator sanctuary.
It was kind of it's a little unfortunate where I think the owner of the house sold, so they like stopped. Those were renters. So I can't give them crap, but just the picture for the lawn domination sake without context was just a little funny.
That's pretty sweet though.
It does make me feel bad. I was really tempted, like, hey, you want me to mow this? But I don't know if my real mower could, actually do it.
It's kind of a good contrast to your yard, it almost kind of like frames it in, look at this wildness over here, and here's my golf course in a sense,
So I actually contemplated, and that was maybe pushing it a little too far for my wife or my neighbors. But in that little strip, because in the other view, it actually pops out a little bit around that rounded corner. I was going to put in, I think it was, from the sidewalk angle. Oh, look at how many pictures did I send you?
Oh, wait, hold on.
Basically, there's like a little strip that pops out towards the neighbor. I don't really like, I don't know kind of how the shape of the yard was, but I was thinking of doing, that one. Like that 2-pass little strip of, plus I barked over that. So more into the left, like a Nomo strip of our Dunes Mix product. But literally just that section just seemed like too much work to maintain a completely different scenario. But I was thinking of going a Dunes Mix look and sweeping kind of across the back half of the yard to have, no mow and the sweeping fescue seed heads, but maybe more of an application for a hillside or a bigger piece of property.
That would look cool though. I mean, how many people are doing that in their home lawn? You know what I mean? That'd be awesome.
Do
you have irrigation or how do you water?
Yeah, so there's little MP rotator heads in there. Probably, I don't know the spacing, but maybe 16 or so of them, just pretty tight spacing on them. Damn. But I try to water. I mean, this is a little different from this yard right now, but because I'm establishing it. But I usually try to water as little as possible, kind of pushing the drought side until once it's established, I'll probably put it through that kind of regiment. But in Oregon, honestly, we don't really need to irrigate too much. We get almost 9 months of rain. So for the most part, it's July and August. That's super stressful. And you kind of ride the wave, try to get out of that, and then build up your health back in fall and come out the spring. But no,
Nice.
That's a little hobby almost.
That's sweet. Looks so good.
Thanks. Yeah, I should have. I don't know how long it'd take me to find a before picture, but it was definitely a different environment. Lots of crabgrass.
Yeah, which before picture? Because you've killed off.
Yeah,
you've killed off
like
and reseeded your
1,
lawn
2,
how many
3.
times now? So
Yeah, the
No,
front
that's
I
yard.
remember last year when we were talking to you about it, you're like, "Oh yeah, it's like pretty much every year I'm killing one or the other off," and I was like, "Wow, that's dedication."
So the way I see it too is like, I'm just like have a fix I need to fulfill from not being on a golf course, but if I'm talking to all these professional end users, professional sports stadiums that are using RPR or RTF, they wouldn't use RTF. That's a horrible example. If they're using HGT or RPR, things like that, or a golf course wherever using RTF, I kind of want to know how that turf grass reacts to some similar amount of maintenance, whether it's plant growth regulator, certain fertility levels, high or low, traffic tolerance. I had a dog, unfortunately she passed away, but that grass was a little able to handle it. The traffic, it's kind of just testing how these genetics, these newer technologies react to whatever I can throw at them. So that's why a lot of times I'm not like trying to be too perfect, kind of more of an experiment, just playing around, seeing how this reacts versus, similar species, but different brands that I've tested in the past. So I am not the, one typical homeowner that would have the ideal expectation of doing it once and having that, stick around for 20 years. I'm going to get there, but I'm in a test it and experiment with it kind of phase. So bent grass is next, I guess.
I mean, I think that's awesome. That'd be sick. I would love to do like putting green with bent grass in my backyard someplace.
Well, so my wife, she laid on the tall fescue and it was like, either she just has an allergy or it was the texture that was like almost giving her hives. So I'm like, you've seen the thicker side of the texture for cool season. I'll show you the finest side. So just kind of almost, educating her too about turf grasses from, you have to feel it at that sense.
Mm-hmm.
I get talking and that's, hard to take all that in.
It is cool to get to try different things, and you have a small enough spot to where it's probably not overwhelming to put in that time. I couldn't imagine Olee killing off and then starting new every year by any means.
Yeah, it's like,
but,
how
he's
much
got
time
it
and
committed
energy.
down his path, but that's pretty cool. Giving an excuse to get out there and do something different each year. Somebody was asking, and I'm curious too, because I'm going to be doing some overseeding on an existing lawn, but Michael in the chat was asking, when you're introducing a new grass type, like going from Kentucky bluegrass, you want to add in some tall fescue or vice versa. Mm-hmm. Does it hurt to go at higher rates to get more, I guess, establishment of that new variety, or would the overcrowding kind of make it not beneficial? And I guess I'm also curious because I think I have mostly a very mature fescue, previously spotted. All that survived was the fescue of all the different blends that may have been there initially. I want to put in some premium fescue, some bluegrass, ryegrass mix. Mm-hmm. Should I go heavy, do you think, or would that be counterproductive?
I don't think it'll be counterproductive. My head goes to looking at, the UK and in Europe, whereas they don't necessarily spray out and start over like a lot of us will. So this is kind of going down that track of, they overseed like consistently almost every other year. Trying to just beef up the newest stuff, keeping it healthy. So very diverse stands. If you're trying to convert your yard, that's a little different scenario than, do I just need to airify this, put some seed down, fertilize, and kind of just a little rejuvenation, not quite a renovation. Mm-hmm. It can be done even at, the half the seeding rates. If you're putting down more, it's not going to, I wouldn't say hurt it. It's not pointless because you'll have more plants, taking hold. But if you picture, depending on the actual seed to soil contact you're getting, that's probably the biggest factor that you can make an impact to. So are you just aerifying, or you can also, scarifying or ripping up kind of what you have? Because you probably want to remove as much as you can if you're trying to transition, or if you're more like playing the slow play or long play, getting some of it in there to work with what you've already got, then I would maybe kind of go to half the rate.
What type of procedure did you use to seed your stuff there? Slit seed, rake, roller?
If I would love if I had a slice ear. Didn't do that. Each time though, it's kind of a different scenario where like I have sprayed out everything to start over. So usually I'm spraying it out. If I had tall fescue like I do right now, it might take me a couple times, because not only tall fescue just being harder to kind of kill long term, the RTF does have the rhizomes, so it's essentially a survival structure to the plant. Oregon State, we had some Bermuda grass trial, decades before I was even a student there, and when I was in school, we were still seeing it pop up every summer and just trying to like nuke it or just like let it be, just come in and come out. So depending on your species, that's something to keep in mind of. If you really want to start over and be pure, like if you have to be like that, then that's maybe something you need to spray it twice, spray it, do all your prep. So hopefully you don't have to till necessarily, but if you're adding topsoil or leveling, kind of prepping, aerifying, loosening, compaction, get that all set and flat, irrigate it, not only pop up weeds that might be now on the surface, but in my case, this tall fescue might still be alive or coming back from rhizomes. I'm gonna have to knock that back again. I do have a Sunjo little dethatcher, little subreddit. I just follow the lawn care kind of channel, and maybe that was one of you guys that gave the tip, but there was a Walmart sale for Sunjos for like $50. Like just popped up on my phone. I'm like, I already have one. I'm gonna buy another one. It's gonna crap out eventually anyway, so I'll get another.
I want a Sunjo. I have a Greenworks, but it doesn't have the scarifying feature, so I might keep my eye on the next Sunjo deals.
Yep, yeah, they're pretty useful. Although with my Owlet Liberty, it's the cartridge type too. So I did get the little, not the everyone's terminology is a little different, like the power rake essentially. Yeah. I have that one where I can plug that in. But
nice.
That's BARENBRUG Hill.
BARENBRUG Hill. Nice. You don't get that elevation from all your drone shots.
I like what you said a while ago. I catch a bunch of hell about drone shots, and everybody's like, yeah, it looks really good from far away. But you said the exact same thing, or what I think is, you said that's a good angle, because if you look above it, you still see soil. And I try to tell people all the time that's hating on the drone shots, it's just like a bald man's head. You get above him, you're going to see a bald spot. You stand beside him at ear level, you're going to see hair.
Yeah.
So, if you've got any imperfections or any spots and you get above it, it's going to stand out like a sore thumb. From the road, it's amazing. That's sitting on the mower, and that's where I covered up that big rock out at the road with only a foot of dirt. And that's been hanging on good. That's the reason I was wondering if the roots or anything was different with that RTF. It's been doing pretty good. I fight a couple of spots there where I was doing my grading, and I've only got about 7 inches of dirt. So
a little shallower than others.
Yeah, and it takes a little more water. But I'm going to try some different granular products this overseeding, trying to help keep more moisture in that shallow root zone. So you can't beat the color of that. I mean, that's a damn good looking tall fescue.
Yeah. Are you going to irrigate that when you overseed, Olee? Or you just?
I will try. I will drag sprinklers. I will do what I got to do. This place is a lot of work.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I bet.
You don't say.
I know you're a diesel mechanic, but when do you find time to do work?
When man, here lately, I don't get nothing done. Between babysitting, taking kids to cross country, taking them to gymnastics, watching the little one. Now we got a puppy that. I mean, that's just, man.
Raise that mowing height as tall as you can.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
You ought to see it right now. It's horrible right now. It's probably 9 inches tall. That rain come in. Boy, she's jumping, and I ain't had time the last 2 days. I need to cut it. Something terrible.
You could find some nice little no-mow areas, kind of switch up the acreage.
Nah, I like for it all to be good.
Yep.
But right now it probably looks like your neighbors.
Yeah. The drought tolerant picture, or the drought.
No. That overgrown. It's green.
Nice.
It's green.
It's got the roots. It's going.
Mm-hmm. But
sweet.
Well, fellas,
you want to wrap it up?
This is great. This is great, man. It's always good talking to you, and like,
thanks.
You get a lot of knowledge of just about all this stuff. Obviously, you not even just your product line, So it's always good talking to you, man.
Well, I feel like it's a little bit of everything, not a lot about one thing. So it's a little in depth enough.
Yeah, there's still lots of questions in the chat that we weren't able to get to. So we apologize to those guys. Sorry, it's only an hour-ish show. We could probably go another 3 hours trying to answer everybody's questions. So we do appreciate, Micah, you jumping on, representing BARENBRUG, coming in and hanging out with us for the night and talking to the live chat and answering some of their questions that we got to. We do appreciate you. And for those of us going to GIE, we look forward to meeting in person at your booth, whatever number that is. I'm sure you guys will shout that out to us on the social media. But
if you follow BARENBRUG, we'll probably post that and say the booth number, everything.
So go check out BARENBRUG at their booth at GIE, and they're all over social media. So follow them wherever you can. And we appreciate you. Thanks. Keep that calendar open. One more spot. We'll probably have you coming back here in the next 6 months, 12 months again. We'll see how time flies. But
I just maybe I'll have another kid.
There you go.
Yeah, probably.
And I also wanted to say thanks so much for donating to the football field project that I worked on this summer. I'm going to be posting some pictures here, cool. As we move into the fall. It's already looking. I mean, it looked great because like the field has irrigation. We fertilized, we aerated, did everything to oversee that, and it was already looking great. I'm gonna wait another couple of weeks because we're getting a lot of good rain. Temperatures are dropping now, so once we kind of hit that like fall flush, that like real
you get that
growing
cool,
time,
everything wakes back up a little bit.
I'm gonna go and once everything starts to kind of come back. But the establishment on the RPR that you sent out for that was great, so I can't thank you enough. I was talking to my buddy that runs that program yesterday, little Labor Day party. I was over at his house, and he was saying like, dude, I can't thank you enough. It looks so good. All the parents in the football club have been saying like, wow, the field looks so much better than it did. So everybody in that football club is super thankful for you guys pitching in and sending out that seed. And I'm going to get some pictures up here in the next couple of weeks on my Instagram, and hopefully I'm going to put together a little something for YouTube with the the before and after. I shot some footage out there before. I'm going to shoot some footage when I can get back out there with him in the next couple of weeks. And but I just want to say thanks for doing that. It was a pleasure working with you guys, and I know that the kids appreciate it, the parents appreciate it, and the field's looking really, really good. So I think it's going to look even better as we move into fall.
I even tell professionals like seeds just, with the newer genetics, a way to maximize your potential. It's still you guys doing the work though, to get those fields nice and all that. So, credit back to you and as well to making those things look nice.
It was a fun project to be able to do, to kind of like do something, in the community, and, use some of the connections that, I've made through doing the show and through, social media and everything else. And it was just one of those things where I was like, we could probably pull something off. So I'm like super, super thankful for you guys for, jumping on board and, donating the seed. And I think it's going to look good. I mean, we time crunch saying like, all right, well, it's summer and they're still doing practices and getting ready for, fall football season. So, we didn't really get to go in there and, spray out weeds or do any of that stuff. There's still a good amount of weeds in there. Because they don't really have somebody managing it. It's like the township comes and cuts it and they got irrigation and that's pretty much it. So, but it's still, we did what we could with it. And
it's only a weed if you really need it gone. It's just how we interpret them.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. But it looks so great. So I just wanted to, make sure that I mentioned that, thank you. And, if nobody knows what I'm talking about,
You'll see.
I think you figured it out by now, but Mike and BARENBRUG donated like 300 pounds of RPR for me to overseed, and I overseeded and fertilized a football field, next town over from me, and they were kind enough to donate the seed for that. So it was a lot of fun, labor of love to do something for the community. So
that's awesome.
I said it before, I'll say it a million times. Thanks so much for doing that.
Yeah, well, I love seeing those kind of projects come to fruition, and it's a good cause. So
yeah, man,
it was cool.
All right.
Cool.
Well, thank you again. And we'll see you guys next week.
Just real quick, Brian, just a quick question. So this being on YouTube and stuff, when you post it, will those questions still be there if I were to go back on there?
They'll show
like
up
11 a.m.
the
after
next
11
day or
a.m.
so.
tomorrow.
Okay, so I could go back through and answer stuff that wasn't answered on there.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay.
Or if you have a question, comment it. If it wasn't answered, comment it on the YouTube video when it drops, which will be in like immediately after we end this. So
cool.
Yeah, but he'll have to go back and look at the live chat questions, and you can just comment back on that or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, but if you're still watching and you're in the chat, drop your comment drop your question that wasn't answered if we didn't get to it in the comment section.
Yep.
That might make it a little bit easier for Micah to be able to get to your questions and watch it back the whole live chat. But yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Thanks for doing that, Micah.
Yeah, might not be tonight. I think I got bedtime routine going. For the baby, not for me. But
right. Yeah.
I'm gonna do my bedtime routine in about 5 minutes. So.
all right,
We'll be back
That's
up by 2:30.
All right, y'all.
All right. See you next
Thanks
week.
again, everyone.
Good night, everybody.